we will see this wonderful, wonderful man again. Tonight's gathering has been titled very appropriately, Aufwiedersehen, which means until I see you again. I lived in Germany for 3 years, and during my time there, I was in the United States Air Force in civil engineering, and we lived in a little town called Herforst. It was close to Trier and near the country of Luxembourg. We'd walk through the cobblestone streets and all of the paths that were there. That was a lot of years ago. But in my memory, I remember the people there. I remember all of the acquaintances that I would walk through the city and meet them, and we'd have a short talk with each other. And then when we would say our goodbye, we weren't quite so formal in saying Auf Wiedersehen. We would say Tschüss, Tschüss. And that in German means a little goodbye. Tschüss. Let's practice. And you probably have food in your mouth, but go ahead, say it. Say tschüss. Tschüss. Yeah, you have a little tschüss, tschüss. And I feel as though that here we are again. This is just a little goodbye that we have for Calvin right now. Just a little one. We'll see him again along different paths paved of gold. Jesus came to his disciples after his resurrection, and he comforted them by saying this: do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and you have seen him. So that's the question that I ask you today. Is your heart prepared for that home of many rooms, for those paths paved of gold? Thank you.
I'm sure it's
I can talk really loud now.
it's a red light.
That's better.
That's the sky. Yeah, red light.
That's okay.
Our technician, my son-in-law.
Thank you.
Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I was promising to keep it short today, but just like 30 seconds more. So that's the question I ask for you today. Is your heart prepared? Prepared for those streets of gold? The many rooms? We will see Calvin again there. Now, Calvin, I know you're here and you're watching us now. He's up there with the saints watching now. And he has a much better television than what these folks are watching and what he watched my sermons on. So it's a much more high definition, and I'm happy for him. I'm celebrating this. So thank you for coming today and celebrating this life. So tschüss.
My name is Ken. Nice to meet you. You've been busy this summer? What are you doing, Christian, this summer? Good reading, playing, swimming.
Okay. I'm going to speak very slowly here. I'm not a Toastmaster. But I have to stretch this out until our next speaker. So I'll try and grab a few stories. My dad was a prolific speaker, but you had to get him going. Okay. On Valentine's Day, 1990, Voyager 1 was 4 billion miles away when Carl Sagan took Earth's distance selfie. He would remark, it was I have a graphic. If you've ever seen it, it's a very intriguing 4 billion miles away, and there's a little dot there, and that is us. Carl Sagan would say, look at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended on a sunbeam, in a sunbeam. And it goes on, and he concluded with, there is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we have ever known. So here on this tiny blue ball spinning through the cosmos, Calvin was born among the oyster beds of a sandy backwater town in a rural eastern Maryland rural town called Girdle Tree Hill. It's now known as Girdle Tree, but through Calvin's cousin, I'll mention later on, I had to do some research for this here, and it was up to 1865. It was called Girdle Tree Hill. Of course, it's one of those towns, if you're driving through it, if you blink, you'll miss it. But it meant a lot. This beautiful blue gem would be his home for 95 years. Here he would learn a multitude of people, tongues, and religions. This was to be the canvas for his life, upon which he would paint love, generosity, discipline, tolerance, and humor. Today, we all stand as witnesses to his life. For Calvin, the meaning of family was, as it is for many today, difficult to grasp initially. Fathers seemed to come and go in his formative years. He enjoyed reminiscing of his grandfather, who came to rescue him on a cold, wintry day from a very poor and inhospitable location. And he enjoyed sharing that because his granddad came to save him. Soon, he would move across a small cornfield from his stepfather's home to live with his mamam and papap. And they were my grandparents, great-grandparents, excuse me, my great-grandparents. Here he would come to know love, shelter, faithfulness, and sustenance sitting around the warm kitchen stove. And it was warm because they had to put sticks into it and keep it warm, keep it heated, and keep the house warm. It was the center of the house, and it was very warm. And of course, that's where they ate. In this home, he met playmates, cousins, uncles, and aunts. As he matured, his horizons would broaden as he took excursions to the public landing, the bay, to Snow Hill, to Pocomoke, to Ocean City, and Chincoteague. Eventually, he would make trips to New York City, which would show him the promises that lay ahead. You may not recognize the names of some of those towns, but two of my cousins are from the Eastern Shore, and they're Kathy and Karen are with us today. And I'll refer to their dad shortly here. At first appearances, Calvin seemed a quiet soul, but once he took a liking to you, he would break forth with stories galore. He shared one childhood memory of brawling with his close friend on a hot summer day, only to stop so they could take a soda break and regain their strength and go back fighting. Boys will be boys. He would protect his younger cousin, Estill Holland, affectionately known as Peanut because of his small stature, but he would protect him from being bullied. That would cement their friendship for 8 more decades, and they were together frequently. Growing up in this era is documented in Estill Holland's An Eastern Shore Thing. There's a draft copy of that at the back of the room, and Estill took the time, as he was again in his golden years, to write down his childhood memories, and we do cherish them, what we can remember. Dad's story began before completion of the Bay Bridge, which was 1952. Who here was around in 52?
I don't think you can see it.
We do have a lot of residents here from Riverview, or maybe remember the times. But before the Bay Bridge and the Chesapeake Tunnel, which was 1964, so it was only fitting that Calvin took a job on the ferry that connected Virginia to Eastern Shore, because that was the only way to get from shore to shore. So he got his experience on the boat, in that country. But at this time, the world was in turmoil, and he was beckoned to come join the fight against an evil Nazi and Japanese Axis. They threatened to take away all that he had grown to love. He was eager to help in the war effort, but he was still too young to enlist. So Calvin joined the Merchant Marines, also known as the Coast Guard. He took to the high seas, crossing the Atlantic Ocean during treacherous times. And sadly, he would mention that some of his friends he never heard from again, as they were lost to U-boats hidden in the depths as they crossed the ocean to support the war effort. Following the war, Calvin would begin his military career to include tours of occupied Germany, the Korean War, the consulate in Burma, today known as Myanmar, the Hong Kong embassy, and posts throughout the continental United States. But he would not be alone. Early on, outside Munich's Hauptbahnhof, he would meet his lifelong love, Anna. Who knows what Hauptbahnhof is? Troudy knows German. This is the train station in Munich. So today I chose this because it would have been the 75th wedding anniversary of my mom and dad, and all their hopes and dreams, for the future. I'm glad to, that you all can come and share in it. Unfortunately, they've decided to move on. Dad was in such a rush that he forgot his passport. But I'll keep it in case he needs it. In the 50s, Calvin and Anna would welcome 2 sons into the world. Both would be born on military bases. And then a wonderful thing happened. In Burma, they were welcomed into the Teal family, a large Chinese family. All would be destined to immigrate to the United States, to our country, would become their country. This family would accompany us throughout life's journey. Today, I wish to extend a warm welcome to the generations of Teo joining us online. Ni hao. I encourage everyone here to check out the photo in the back. There's a large photo right in the center of the table there of the recent Teo reunion in Estes Park, Colorado. It shows remarkable growth of these 15 siblings. So, and these 15 siblings became the next generation and the next generation. So if you look at the picture, you'll see approximately 80 folks and kids in the picture, and my dad's in the back. You can pick him out. My earliest memories in life are of Rangoon, of the palatial estate that was home, of its secret room under the steps, of my pet goat, and especially of my 5th birthday party. It was a regal celebration. Yes, I had a crown, and I had my own princess beside me. She had a crown, and I have the receipts. Those photos are around. So I was impressed. I relish the water festivals in Rangoon. I laughed at being soaked silly, then drying off so I could enjoy hot mohinga soup. What do you say? Delicioso. It's a wonderful soup. And I'm sure the Teo families recognize that online. It's so very good for the soul. I still dream of running the halls of the Teo house. This is where I heard singing, pianos, and guitars played by the Teo brothers and sisters. And remember, this was years before the world even knew of the Von Trapp family. Who knows who the Von Trapp family is? Oh, okay, all right. Thanks to the Sound of Music. So this is the mold that I was cast from, and I'm so grateful to you all. It has enriched us all. Thank you, my Teal family. In assembling, I'm getting desperate now for trying to stretch out to get. I had to get to 1,000-word essay. So if I don't follow a strict outline, forgive me. In assembling my TED Talk today, I attempted to follow the chronology of my parents' lives decade by decade, going through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Let's go through that. And 90 years is a long time. It helps when you consider I was an adult child at home until the age of 35. This exposed me to 1/3 of my parents' lives. And conversely, they got to raise me for almost half of my life. This is when I was in diapers. Now, until there was a sudden, unexpected role that they were cast into of being grandparents, which meant still more diapers. And I introduced my oldest son, Michael. Okay. Bless him and his family. And it's not over, see. And then to my second marriage, by then, disposable diapers had finally arrived. Which was good because I had 3 daughters from that. But my mom and dad, they took it all in stride, the good sprinkled liberally with the bad. Life is like that. Calvin would keep his mind sharp well into his 80s and 90s by practicing a multitude of interests. For example, he pursued foreign language studies. He studied German, Spanish, and Chinese. This even facilitated his travel to many of these countries to visit, loved ones and to, visit people he had met in his life. He could trace the lineage of the Cheshire Holland family 400 years back to Cheshire, England, go figure, through online genealogy studies. And he was just doing that just recently, last year. He used the Quicken computer program for all his accounting, beginning with MS-DOS, which was in the late 80s, for 30 years up to the current Windows 11. And he was very faithful. And I had to tell him many times, he asked me for help. I said, Dad, you are the expert. You are the master extraordinaire of Quicken. And I have to give that to him. He was always a quiet philanthropist. Even in his final days, I would discover much of his generosity in his accounting records as I witness firsthand the kindness of many of thankful families and friends, these caregivers, these cleaners, these workers, who are with us today. I say, muchas gracias para todos. You were such a blessing, to him. Thank you so much. It meant so much to him. And to see you even in his last moments, he was happy. As I go through his personal belongings recently, I would discover the birthday list that he would faithfully maintain of family and friends, because he would always keep a supply of Chinese red gift envelopes. Has anyone ever seen one of these? These are a good thing to see, especially if they're coming to you. These are gifts, traditionally Chinese New Year, but any special time, birthdays, other celebrations. So I found many of these, and I also found birthday cards that he would keep, to send out to family and friends, always faithful and keep in touch. And of course, Facebook and electronic mail, e-cards, would come into being. On Facebook, I discovered a final farewell in Chinese from one of the young performers that he chaperoned for many years at the International Children's Festival of Wolf Trap. This has since closed, but for years, children were invited from all over the world, young performers, dancers, musicians, and they would perform on stage at Wolf Trap, and he would chaperone them. And a lot of them, this is their first introduction, of course, to the US, and he would take them to the mall, take them to the hotel, and and take good care of them. But he became a pen pal. He kept touch with many of them, and in the back you will see a picture of one of the young performers. And she was a Wolf Trap. And on the left side, you'll see the Chinese. If anyone, can anyone read Chinese? Aha. And there's also the translation on the right side. And if you look carefully at that translation, you'll see his generosity and the kindness of this man who has moved on. So Calvin's final days as friends departed. For the last time they would see it, they were saying ciao, goodbye, adieu, and Calvin would quickly bark out at them, no, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear Aufwiedersehen. He was adamant about it. So I have learned some things in the church. For example, amen means so be it. So I say amen, to Calvin's life, Aufwiedersehen. Okay. Now we will move over to my good friend and family, Henry Teo. He is, I should give a little explanation of the siblings for the Teo family. They were raised in an English Methodist school, and there was 15 brothers and sisters. So they would have to be named with English names. So they started alphabetically, going through the full family, starting from A, all the way up to P,
Oh,
Oscar. Yep. So there are 15. So this is Henry, who will be speaking. He is in the middle. He's has a history in a New York University as a teacher, and you can find Henry in the crowd, the Zoom there. We'll switch over to him.
okay. Good evening, Michael. Can you hear
Are
me?
they coming that close in the back?
Can you hear me?
He may have the symbol.
You have to raise your hand.
No. Oh,
You have to do the procedure.
let's see.
Raise your hand.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay. We'll
Okay,
get your
and-
volume up a little here.
Okay, can I?
Michael, I'm here too.
Okay. This is Henry and his wife, Lily, will be joining us for a
Yes.
few minutes.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Teo family, I, Henry Teo, the 8th sibling of my large family from Pennsylvania, would like to pay a tribute to Calvin Chesser. Calvin Chesser is a close family friend. Actually, he's more than a friend. He is family to the Teo clan of 15 brothers and sisters. We have known Calvin and his late wife Anna for over 60 years when he was stationed in Rangoon, Burma in the late 1950s. Since then, we have always kept in touch with the Chessers, whether it's in Rangoon, Hong Kong, or Virginia. Calvin joined the US Army shortly after World War II and was stationed in Munich, Germany, where he met Anna, the love of his life. Together, they had 2 sons, Roger and Michael, and was stationed in various parts of the world. It was in Rangoon, Burma during the late 1950s when we got to know the Chesser family, when Chesser was working in the US Embassy with my uncle Alan Chan. At their house in Rangoon, Burma, now called Myanmar, Calvin and Anna gave my siblings and I a taste of American life. They introduced us to hamburgers and hot dogs, actually it's frankfurters, cooked in a charcoal grill, and also entertained us with American movies from a 16mm movie camera. Calvin would then visit our house and share dinner with us. Eager to learn Chinese culture, he would insist on using chopsticks, while the rest of us would be using spoons and forks. Since then, the Theo family became very close to the Chessers. They would participate in many Theo events, including birthdays, weddings, family reunions, parties, and many other family events. In addition to being close friends, they have supported and assisted Theo family in many ways and were considered part of our family. Calvin and Anna were very gracious, generous, and always willing to help others. When I first came to the United States 60 years ago, the first family that I visited was with the Chessers. At that time, they were staying in the married Army quarters in Fort Myers, Virginia. Since then, they have moved to Hong Kong, where Calvin was stationed for several years. Later, while the Chessers was living in Virginia, their home in Falls Church, Virginia, will also be like a second home to many of us, especially during the 1970s, as most of my family members immigrated to the United States. When my sister Juliet was working and living in Virginia, the Chessers continued to be her constant companions and were very close supporters for her. And when my wife Lily and children were living in New York, we would regularly drive to Virginia to visit my sister Juliet, and the Chessers would always open the doors for us, and we would frequently visit and stay with them. Additionally, Calvin and Anna sheltered my grown-up children when they were living in Virginia for a short period of time. In 1997, when my sister Juliet was diagnosed with cancer, she moved in with the Chessers and they became the caretakers for her, and Anna looked after Juliet like a mother. There were so many examples of warmth and hospitality the Chessers had bestowed to our family. Calvin and Anna were inseparable couple. Anna was the traditional Deutsche Hofrau and Mutter. I guess in English it means a German wife and mother, taking care of Calvin and her sons while keeping the house meticulously clean. She was a devoted wife, and it was well known to us that Calvin never had to prepare nor cook any food nor drinks, but ate only what Anna put in front of her for meals. After completing his service in the army, Calvin worked in the Navy Annex, and in addition to raising their son Roger and Michael, they would take care of their grandson Michael Jr. in their Falls Church house. Calvin is a people person with a big heart and showed a genuine interest in people. He always enjoyed communicating with people, never failing to call each one of my siblings on their birthdays. He always kept in touch with his Anna's relatives in Germany also. A true citizen of the world, Calvin volunteered at the annual International Children's Festival, meeting children from all over the world with whom he kept in touch for many years. And at one point, Calvin learned Mandarin so that he was able to communicate with the children from China while volunteering at the Children's Festival. During the early part of the century, Calvin also made a solo trip to China to visit some of the children and their sponsors. When Anna passed away in December 2010, Calvin was devastated, and he had lost the love of his life. Thanks to his son Michael and his daughter-in-law Eugenia and their children, Calvin was able to live another life again. Calvin Chesser is the salt of the earth, a hard-working person who would bend over backwards to help someone. His life is one which would be portrayed as an ideal American in the Life magazine. You could always count on Calvin whenever you needed his help. We are truly fortunate to have known Calvin as a friend. He's one of the nicest person that I've ever known. As my daughter Michelle says, he's ever accommodating and was ever loving. Earlier this year, my brother Fred, Ivan, sisters Lillian, Noreen, including my wife Lily and myself, visited Calvin. Although he was getting weaker, his mental facilities were still very acute. I recall during one of my visits, I wished him adios, my friend, just before we were leaving. As many of you would know, adios means goodbye in Spanish. Calvin corrected me by saying, don't say adios, but say Aufwiedersehen, which means till we meet again. He had an amazing example of kindness, a model of human, and many we know everlasting peace. So now I will conclude by wishing you, Calvin Chesser, Aufwiedersehen, my friend. Okay, now my wife Lily would like to join in celebrating the life of Calvin Chesser.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for giving me an opportunity to recall the beautiful memory of Anna and Calvin. Calvin would have greeted us many times with ni hao, which is hello in Chinese. As Anna was a wonderful cook, Calvin was a perfect host. The causeway Anna served was delicious and nourished our bodies as well as our memories. As a newlywed 50 plus years ago, I was invited to a party given by Anna and Calvin. At that time, their hospitality made me less homesick for Texas and showed me how wonderful the future would be. Food and laughter filled their homes. Any Teal who had the good fortune to be in the DC area would be shown the true meaning of mi casa, su casa. In the many years to follow, my children will remember the warm memories of Oma and Opa's kindness. We had so many photographs taken over the years at Teal weddings, family reunions, birthday celebrations, and Calvin and Anna would often attend, singing joyfully our cowboy songs that traveled from Burma to the States. We all knew this unique couple made a commitment to be with us in good and sad times. They will be missed, but they will always hold a place in our hearts. Good night.
That was my wife, Lily, paying tribute to Calvin and celebrating his life. And now, in addition, my brother Edward, who's not able to join us, he wrote paid a tribute to Calvin. So I will read what he had written. And it is called an Ode to Calvin Chesser. He says, I am remembering the song, I will follow him in admiration to Calvin. Calvin was a GI post-war England in Germany when he met his beautiful Fräulein Anna, fell in love with a slow-talking mid-American, wooed and married her. Calvin worked in the US Embassy in Rangoon, Burma, in the military attaché department. He was a good friend of our Uncle Alan, who brought films and projector and entertained us to our home in 22nd Street and Chinatown, Rangoon, and later in our garden home in Halpin Road. I remembered movies like The Sound Barrier and Strategic Air Command starring James Stewart. In Burma, Calvin and Anna actively participate in square dancing and invited us to these events. He also joined them for several dance parties at our house. Calvin brought Anna and his two kids to our dinner table to participate in our strange Chinese and Burmese dishes. Throughout all this time, Calvin became a beacon of our life and was an exemplary mentor. Later, the Chessers reconnected with Albert and Bennett in Hong Kong and in Taiwan. Calvin encouraged the Teo family to come to the United States. Thanks, Calvin. Mama and Julia lived in Virginia with the Chessers for a short time. I remember jumping into the heap harvested leaves during a business trip in Virginia in Calvin's backyard. Calvin always attended more than 4 of our Teo family reunions. Of course, we will miss him until we meet again. Aufwiedersehen, Calvin. May Calvin rest in peace. We all love him. This is from my brother Edward, his wife Kin, his children Ed Jr., Elizabeth, Elaine, and their spouses and their grandchildren. Finally, I will read a short message from my youngest brother, Oscar, who is traveling from Michigan to Texas at this point, and so he cannot participate with us. And I took the liberty of reading what he wrote about celebrating Calvin's life. We all owe, this is from Oscar, we all owe a great deal of appreciation for Calvin Chesser for giving us a glimpse of America while we were in Burma, which greatly inspired and influenced each one of us and gave us hope as the situation grew dire and despairing in our hometown. We celebrate his life and happy that he is able to join his beloved Anna. May he rest in peace. Thank you, Calvin. And now I would like to turn the mic to the Buddhist priest. Is the chief abbot of the New York Buddhist Temple, and his name is the Venerable Pandit Dhamma Jyoti. So please welcome Pandit Dhamma Jyoti, a Buddhist monk from New York.
Okay, thank you everybody, and I am really glad to join with you in this special occasion, the memorial service of Calvin Chessier. And according to our Buddhist tradition, I would like to recite a special saying that explained by the Buddha about our lives. And because our life is uncertain and also impermanent, and this is this is a memorial service of Calvin Chessier. Then in that memorial service, I'm reciting this stanzas, English translation. Meditation on death. Like a flame blown out by the wind, this life continuum goes to destruction. Recognitions one's similarity to others, one should develop mindfulness of death. Just as people who have achieved great success in the world have died, so too I must certainly die. Death is harassing me. Death always comes along together with birth, searching for an opportunity like a murderer out to kill. Not at the least bit stoppable, always going forward. Life ruthless towards its end. Life rushes towards its end, like the rising sun to its setting. like lightning, a bubble, dewdrops, or a water line. Life is destroyed. Death is like a murderer after his fall, completely unrestrainable. Death slays those great in glory, in strength, merit, powers, and wisdom. And even the two kinds of conquerors. No need to speak about one like me. Due to a lack of the supports of life, or to some inner or outer misfortune, I who am dying moment after moment can die in the blink of an eye. Impermanent are all conditional things, subject to rise and fall away. Having arisen, they then must cease. Blissful is it when they subside. Before long, this body will die, cast away upon the ground, bereft of all consciousness, like a useless block of wood. Uninvited, we came here. Without leave, we departed. We went just as we came. So why we lament? This is the nature of our lives. And thank you very much. And thank you, Henry and Lily, and one of our best friends, families, and I am expanding our sincere gratitude and thanks and condolence all of you, and may you be well, happy and peace. May you all be attain ultimate bliss of Nibbana. Having that aspiration, I am going to bless all of you by the power of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, by the power of all the deities who protect this world. May you be well, happy, and peace. Please listen to my chanting. Dukkhapatta ca nidukkha, bhayapatta ca nibbaya, sokapatta ca nisoka, hontu sabbe pipanino. Dukkhapatta ca nidukkha, bhayapatta ca nibbaya, sokapatta ca nisoka, hontu sabbe pipanino. Let those who are in misery be free from misery. Let those who are in fear, agony, and insecurity be free from fear, agony, and insecurity. Let those who are in sorrow be free from sorrow, and may all living beings be well, happy, and peace. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Pandey. So now we say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu. And now, before I forget, I'd like to introduce some members of my family who are also participating in the Zoom program. So first, I'd like to introduce my brother, George. George, would you please speak up?
Yes,
Or
this is George.
I'm in Houston. I'm brother number 7.
Oh, this
And
is
now,
And
elder brother?
retired librarian.
Henry,
yes,
is that your elder brother?
yeah, he's my elder brother. Our name come in alphabetical order, so
Uh-huh.
G comes before H. So he's 1 year older than me.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
yes. And now yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, and I think I know you more than almost 20 years. I think
Yes,
so.
that is
And
correct.
still, I don't know. You have this type of alphabetical order names of your brothers and sisters, and so 16, right?
Yeah,
15.
15 of us.
Ah, 15. Oh,
So
wonderful,
thank
wonderful.
thank you. That is called family planning.
Oh, it means A, B, C, D.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
And now I will introduce my brother David.
Yeah.
David, would you please speak up? He's number 4 in the family.
David. Okay.
David, yeah, David, can you speak up?
How
You got to, I guess, maybe you have to press the start video. There you go. Okay,
Yes.
can you speak
Oh,
up?
this is David, A, B, C, D, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad to see all of you here today, and also I wish you all the best, and may all of you be well, happy, peaceful. I'm
Yeah,
in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce my sister Lillian from Houston, Texas. So Lillian, would you please speak up?
Hello, I'm Lillian from Houston. And thank you everybody for having this celebration for Calvin Chesser.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Lillian. Okay.
And now I'd like to introduce my other sister, Noreen from Maryland. So Noreen, would you please speak up?
Hi, everyone. Can you imagine I'm number 14 in case you haven't figured out A, B, C, D all the way to N.
Oh,
I am Noreen, and unfortunately, I live about an hour away from where the celebration is, and I had to run some errands, and I couldn't make it in time to get to Leesburg, so apologies. I wish I could be there. I have never known my life to be without the Chessers since I was a little girl, so
Right.
they will be missed very much.
anyway, you participated and we see and you join with us. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and thank you, Pante. Thank you for your
All
presence.
blessing be with you.
And finally, I would like to introduce my niece, Wendy, also from Houston. So Wendy, would you please speak up? Introduce yourself. Maybe, Wendy, maybe you have to raise your hand in order to speak. Okay, maybe she's not that familiar with it.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
there she is. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm Wendy. I'm Albert's. He's the oldest. My late dad. He passed away in 1999. This is my daughter Ellison, and we're from Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they met with Calvin Chesser when they was in Hong Kong. Wendy was born in Hong Kong. Am I correct? And
Yes.
that's when they met with Calvin Chesser and their family. Calvin, Anna, Chesser, Michael, and Roger at that time. So anyway, so I've introduced members of my family who are able to participate in the Zoom. Yes.
I have a question. This Noreen is 15, right?
Number 14.
14.
Number 14. Then how about the 15 and 16 or something like that?
15 is on his way from
Michigan.
Texas to Michigan. He's
Oh.
visiting his daughter.
He's traveling.
He's traveling, so he could not attend.
Oh,
But
how
yes.
about Henry?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania.
Right. And which number you are taking?
Oh, number 8, right in the
number
middle.
8. Oh.
Yes, I'm right in the middle.
Exactly middle, right? Okay.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Yes,
Yes. So
Okay,
I'm special.
thank you.
The right in the middle.
Right.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All blessing, all of you.
Okay, and
Thank
again,
you.
Pandey, thank you very much for your wisdom.
Of course.
And yes, thank you again. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay, and good night. Yes, yeah. Okay,
Michael?
okay, Michael, it's the podium is back to you now.
Hello?
Michael?
Where's-
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I got
yeah,
two mics here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
One for the room, one for the Zoom.
Okay.
One for the Zoom and one for the room. Hey,
Okay.
you may not know it, but I'm a poet.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
Michael. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
And we enjoyed the celebration.
Thank you all for your patience. But you have next decades or the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we'll fast track through it. These are the grandchildren of Calvin, my daughters, and my oldest son here. You're gonna stand out. Okay, okay. So who's gonna speak? Michelle. Okay, the oldest one is Michelle. Okay.
First, I'd like to invite my husband because he helped me write this speech. So come stand with me, Anthony. I'm sorry, I'm nervous and emotional, so I'm sorry if I cry, but I'll try and keep my composure. Today, I'd like to share with you a period in my life where I have my most treasured memories of Opa. When my oldest son, Leo, was less than 1 year old, me, my husband, and Leo all moved in with Opa. There, I watched Leo grow up and blossom his unique bond with Opa. This is where Leo took his first steps in Opa's living room as we all watched, cheering him on. This is where Opa would stand in his doorway in the hallway to greet us because Opa was always spying on the building's front entrance camera on the TV. He always knew who was coming. We would come off the elevator to see Opa down the hall waving, and Leo would stumble down the halls as he was learning to walk, but at the same time, he was running towards Opa for a hug. This is where Leo learned to sneak out of our bedroom early in the morning to watch TV with Opa. Me and Anthony would wake up in the morning in a panic because we couldn't find Leo in the bedroom, only to find him watching Paw Patrol with Opa and snacking on some Cheerios. This is where we learned as parents about temper tantrums and how to navigate them. This was hard for Opa to watch because he always wanted all his grandchildren to be happy. I'm sure me and my siblings could all agree with that. This is where Leo would learn to throw his blocks on the floor and motion over for Opa to come play with him. Opa would slowly lower himself to the floor to sit with Leo so they could play together. It would always worry me because Opa sat on the floor and he was in his 90s and I was afraid he wouldn't be able to get up. But Opa said it's okay. He was adamant about listening to Leo's instructions. It brings me joyful tears to my eyes and happiness in my heart, knowing my son, Leo, was able to enjoy Opa's company as I did growing up. Opa and Leo had a special friendship, as Opa would always say to Leo, Leo is my best bud, and we just understand each other. And that's all for me. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Who's next?
So I'm the youngest of all the grandkids. I'm gonna be reading for my oldest brother, but I guess I'll share some words of how I saw Opa. So today was the first day that I came back to town. And the last time I was here was his last day with us. So I'm sorry. It's the first time I'm processing all this, so apologies. I'm a sad person, so sorry, you guys. Opa was really special to me, and he really gave me oh, sorry. Thank you. Opa really made my childhood something special. And it's something that I'm very grateful for. I mean, as you guys know him, he was just such a giving person. And he never forgot anyone's birthday. He always got a gift. And I remember telling him in his last days that I kept the last gift that he gave me, which was a box of chocolates. And I still have it till this day because it's just very special for me. But a lot of my memories of Opa are holidays and birthdays. And he really impacted all of us in just such a great way. He was so giving and generous. And I mean, as you all know, he was just, there's no one that could replace him. I mean, he was a great person, and I'll miss him a lot. But I'm just glad of all the memories that he gave us. These are words from my oldest brother that I'll be sharing with you guys today. I guess with my sisters to support me, I guess. This is the front. To me, dear sweetheart of a man, to my beloved Opa, where to begin? I think everyone here and abroad would agree that Calvin had a huge heart and was a generous man. He could light up a room with his smile and laugh, and could talk to anyone for extended periods of time. This is very true. He loved conversation. Anna, Oma, as many of you knew, her was the light of his life. I lived in their house several times from my infancy to adulthood. The loss of Oma 13 years ago was devastating to the family, and we lost our matriarch. Her love was fierce, but what would you expect from a redhead fireball? For Opa, he lost his best friend and the love of his life. He lost his provider. To me, they were like a second set of parents. I was in a very special situation with the two of them and had a rather unique relationship. For the eldest grandson, we were very close, and from the time I was little, Opa was supportive of all of my endeavors, from going fishing to roller skating, skateboarding, to billboards, often driving long distances, waiting patiently until we were ready to go home from said activity. One of my fond childhood memories was going to a local park with a big hill. He would push me up the hill on my big wheel tricycle and let me go flying down. Repeat over and over again until I was ready to go home. I remember and wished that I could find a picture, but he used to get down on his hands and knees, and I would get up on his back and ride him around the house like a horse. Mind you, I was much smaller than I am now. He helped me in so many ways throughout my life, and he gave me so much love in my life. I really miss him. He has touched so many people's lives with his love and generosity. First, there were the Tios, a very large family that became one of the first groups outside of the family that got to experience his love, his generosity, his friendship. Lifelong friends that maintained the love throughout 7 decades. And then there were their children, and in some cases, their children. They all honored both he and Oma like they were part of the family. Before me, there was my father, Michael Sr., and my Uncle Roger. I can imagine that they had similar experiences and stories. Wow, fast forward a few years from our childhood, and then began the arrival of the next grandchildren, Michelle, Kelsey, and then Maggie. Watching the joy in his eyes as they were growing up was incredibly heartwarming to me. The Wolf Trap years, he loved children. After he retired for several years, up until about 2005, I remember correctly, he volunteered at the International Children's Festival as a chaperone for the children from all over the world. For several years, he worked with a group of Chinese children, and he became their friend, maintaining contact with some of them even in recent years. As they reached their adulthood, then the great-grandchildren started to arrive. Watching the joy in his eyes as he was surrounded by the family that he started brought me such immense joy. In particular, watching him on one occasion with Blake as a much older man brought memories of he and I back to so many years ago, so much patience and love. Then there is the German side of family, Alma's family. He made an effort to keep them in his heart, although communication was often a little challenging because of the language barrier. Once Alma's brothers had passed on, he maintained relationships with their children and even their children, telling me in recent years of still sending cards on these little ones' birthdays. Does this sound familiar at all? And then there were others like Mercedes and Yanis, two ladies that worked in the condominium building where he spent the last years of his life. He welcomed them into his heart and building an a viable relationship with the two of them that brought them into the circle of love and generosity. They treated him like family, and there were so many people that he touched and loved throughout his lifetime. He never forgot them throughout the years, maintaining the relationship and always keeping the love for them going. I'm probably forgetting several people, but I think you're getting the gist. For a man who grew up in the middle of nowhere, Girltree, Maryland, with so very little, he gave so much to this world and to be loved by so many. He must have done something right. I only hope that I can contribute half of what he did to the world. I love you, Opa, and I think of you every day. And that was from my brother, Michael. And I guess just a few last words. I think Opa is proud of a lot of us for, going through challenges and just accomplishing a lot of stuff in life. And one of the last things I had told Opa was that I would keep pushing towards my life and career. I never effort and I put in this for you, Opa. Just want you to know that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So my name is Michelle. I'm one of Opa's grandchildren. And the last time I had to do a speech like this, I forgot my birthday. So I just want to let you know that I'm more of like an artsy person and not a math person. So if I mess up any numbers, that's the reason why. But I kind of wrote like a little poem here, nothing rhyming, but kind of like a little visual I wanted you guys to see. So I want to talk to everyone today about a person 3 generations before me. His name was Grandpa Charles. That was the person who raised Opa. I feel like eventually we will be forgetting generations to come, but memories will always be told and passed down. You see, Grandpa Charles lived during a time of division of people, but yet he walked on a wholesome path of unity. He loved people of all shapes, sizes, respectfully. A man who had the honor of raising Opa to the boy, to the father, to the Opa, and to the great-grandpa Opa. If I could see the world through Opa's blue eyes, I could sense the beauty of friendship and communion of the people that are all in this room today and online. I really appreciate everyone making time or saying kind words for Opa today. I think we can all share something like that and let everyone know how we saw Opa. So that's what I believe we all
came here to sit together, to eat together, to get to know different faces. And that's something that Opa loved to do with the people he would come across. And so if we could do that today, that would be sharing a piece of Opa here in this room. Let's see. I had a funny story I just thought of and I forgot. But yeah, Opa's heart, he was the type of person that would look up into the sky when he heard an airplane, and he had a love for like the things in front of him. He loved to travel, the beauty of the, simple things, flowers, people, traditions. And so that's like a little piece of Opa that I always remember. And I'm still trying to think about my funny story. I should have wrote it down. I know, I think it's stage fright. But yeah, I really I feel blessed to have Opa as my grandfather and to have that type of relationship. So that's always something I felt I didn't take for granted to have a Opa like that. And my sister mentioned a box of chocolates, and I want to say I found 3 boxes of chocolates, the same one that she had today in my room. So I feel like little signs like that, when I see that, it reminds me of Opa, because like, what's the coincidence of, our boxes of chocolates like being talked about on the same day. But yeah, I just want to bring a little laughter in here, a little bit of cheer, and a little bit of Opa. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I want to, we're getting close. Thank you again for being so patient. On the tail end of Opa's life was Latino influence. My wife is Peruvian, and somehow or other, I got to meet half the people in South America. And half of the Peruvians are here in the Washington area, and others too. And it's been such a blessing. And I wanted to say some words in Spanish, but I'm still learning after 30 years. My dad, but this is my compadre. He's dear to me. We share the same grandchildren, and love life. We've been friends for I guess 25 years, and we are family. And he wanted to share a few words. About my dad.
Good evening, everybody. I was a good friend of Calvin Chesser, and I will say my speech in Spanish in honor to him. He was a very fan of the Spanish culture. Sé que en este momento todos estamos atravesando por una gran pena, ¿no? Por la pérdida de nuestro gran amigo Calvin, que nos ha dejado para partir a un mundo mejor. Es cierto que uno anhela poder compartir su vida y estar al lado de todas las personas que uno ama, porque cuando perdemos a un ser querido, simplemente nuestro corazón se llena de un inmenso vacío y de una profunda tristeza, al saber a ciencia cierta que no lo volveremos a ver físicamente. Sin embargo, pese a la tristeza que hoy nos invade, debemos comprender que nuestro gran amigo Calvin ahora se encuentra mucho más cerca de nosotros de lo que podamos imaginar, ya que la muerte es solo un camino que nos dirige a un nuevo mundo, donde no existe el sufrimiento, las lágrimas, ni mucho menos el dolor. Además, debemos de saber que en algún momento nos reencontraremos con nuestro gran amigo en ese mundo que hoy no conocemos. Dejemos la tristeza a un lado y sintámonos felices por nuestro gran amigo y por todo lo que él fue en vida, mientras estuvo con nosotros, pues desde donde se encuentra nos estará cuidando y observando. Conocí a Calvin por más de 20 años. Fue una persona dadivosa, desprendida y siempre preocupada por las personas que estaban a su entorno. Él brindó apoyo desinteresado a muchas personas y eso lo hacía muy feliz. Solo me resta decir hasta luego, Opa. Gracias. Gracias. Thank you very much.
Well, that concludes. I guess I should leave an open mic if anybody. I would be remiss if I don't mention the majority of the folks here are in the Bible history class. And I wanted to invite you because Opa, even in his last days, he tried to make an attempt to come down. He enjoyed the teaching, enjoyed everybody, and sadly we lost the leader for that class, Wayne Blazer, who was a young man. He's a little bit older than me, but Bart was I guess the former pastor. There have been, I guess, several pastors in the building, but I'm going to do one of those commitments here from the microphone with a lot of witnesses here. So just so you know, I've been asked to stand in and help moderate that group, the teachings they're going on. And I acknowledge I'm not a preacher or a teacher, but I have my faith. I have my father's faith. I have my grandfather's faith. And I dare say my great grandfather's faith. Pilgrim's Holiness was the name of the church. Pilgrim's Holiness, that goes back into the mid 19th century. There was a big movement in the U.S. But I will be helping you all with that class so we get the most out of it. We just finished going through the book of Revelation, and coincidentally, Jess has opened with some quotes or from the the final part of Revelation of what the kingdom of God will look like, what heaven looks like. We don't know. We have a hope. That's why I opened my speech early on, because to me it's like it's a blue dot that's out there, and don't take for granted that blue dot is so much. Every heart here, every life here, we get to enjoy it, and we've got to make the most of it. So I'm going to keep hanging in there. Hopefully I can fill my dad's shoes, but gosh, they're so big. Yeah. But we'll miss him, and thank you all for coming. There's plenty of sweets left in the back. And we've got one last laugh.
Okay. So I just remembered my story. If you don't laugh, it's okay. So one of my memories that I had with Opa, we talked about the birthday cards that Opa would write out to people. So, if you ever has anybody in the room ever wrote out a card and put money in it, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. So I would remind Opa a month before my birthday would be here, even though obviously he knew when my birthday was coming. So, I would, over the years, he would put like checks or cash. But then as I got older, Opa had like a personality, like I would say a kid. So he'd always like to play jokes on me. So what he did, I think it was my 26th birthday, and this is why. Opa gave me the birthday card, and I had to open in front of him. And I'm like, okay. And so when I opened it, Opa put in a quarter and a penny, and he taped it in the card. So I just wanted to make you guys laugh one more time. Yeah.
Some people in the room, and for some of us here, a quarter and a penny is a lot. When we were young, we got that. It meant a lot. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope it's been a blessing. Please just mingle, socialize. I think we've got the room paid to 8:30, but there's lots of mementos around. If you have any questions, Opa's walking stick, I did bring that. That wasn't mentioned, but if you can't recall, that might trigger some of you in remembering him walking around the building. He was here for 10 years with you all, and thank you all for making his life so meaningful during that time. Okay. And everyone on Zoom, thank you so much for attending. I do appreciate the well wishes.
Have a wonderful,
and I hope to see you soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bless.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
Thank
you.
Auf Wiedersehen, Calvin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy and peace. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Peace. Okay. Bye.
Bye.